we've talked about some of these kind of authors who would have dealt with themes that we can easily imagine Tolkien being interested in. Adventures, the fantastic, religious matters. Can we talk a bit about some of the authors who are maybe a little less expected? Just maybe a quick overview of some of, I'm thinking especially of sci-fi, of literary modernism, not just chronological modernity, and also kind of the modern realist novel.
Yeah, I mean,
For
even just
example, he was very interested in Sinclair Lewis's work.
yeah, he said that he had read all of Sinclair Lewis's work, and he even singles out the novel Babbitt as having an influence on the creation of the Hobbits. Draws a parallel between the character of Babbitt and the character of the Hobbits. And Sinclair Lewis is about as far from what you would expect Tolkien to be enjoying as you can imagine. It's total, straight up American satiric literary realism. It's very, very, very different from anything that the Inklings wrote. So Sinclair Lewis, as you know, he read and enjoyed a lot of science fiction. He names Isaac Asimov as a favorite author. He admired the work of H.G. Wells, even though he differed from his religious views very definitely. Like I said, enjoyed Ray Bradbury as another science fiction author that he read. And then he took quite seriously the work of the modernists. So, for instance, he took notes on James Joyce's Finnegan's Wake. There's several pages of notes where he engages with what Joyce is doing. He even transliterates the name Anna Livia Plurabelle into Elvish. He's interested in what Joyce is doing with this stream of consciousness. Now, he doesn't entirely approve of what Joyce is doing, but he takes it seriously. He engages with it thoughtfully. And this, by the way, is in contrast to C.S. Lewis, who just dismissed it out of hand and didn't want to think about it at all. Tolkien,
similar with Eliot.
Yeah, he really engages with it. Gertrude Stein is another author that we know that he read at least a little bit. He mentions her in those notes. So those are some of the modernists. He seems to have had a kind of cautiously positive view of T.S. Eliot, which is interesting. We don't know really much about his reaction, but he was sad when Eliot died. And then of other authors that he liked, of the more modern people, for instance, Dylan Thomas. I turned up the fact that he thought very highly of Dylan Thomas, the poet.
How could he not like Dylan Thomas? I mean, come on.
Well, he is a more modern and experimental figure.
Just on the sonic level, you know?
Well, exactly. I mean, this is just so fascinating that he liked him. He also he liked the modern poet Roy Campbell, who wrote very realistic verse about, for instance, the Spanish Civil War. So there's a lot of figures that we wouldn't necessarily expect him to like, that he did like very much. He very much liked Roy Campbell's poetry, and other ones that he was interested in. They're a bit unexpected, but once you start to see the bigger scope of his creative imagination, they start being a little less unexpected. They sort of become, hey, this fits. Why didn't we see this before? Because it really fits that somebody who's writing a work that resonates so strongly with the modern situation. I mean, The Lord of the Rings just profoundly speaks to the modern issues of power, of totalitarianism. It's not an allegory, but it has a great deal of what Tolkien calls applicability. It's so relevant to our experiences. How could somebody who was just hidden in the past have written a book like that? And I think once we sort of grasp that, we realize it actually makes perfect sense that he would be interested in Joyce and Stein and Dylan Thomas and Agatha Christie and and H.G. Wells, in addition to all of the medieval writers that he knew and loved so much. He, one of his students described him as a translator between the medieval world and the modern world. Now he's speaking in that sense of his work on Beowulf, but I think that really speaks to his overall engagement with culture. How can The Lord of the Rings speak so powerfully to us? It's drawing so much is drawing from medieval sources. But how does Tolkien make that material meaningful and resonant for us in the modern day? Because he also knew the modern literature, modern culture, modern issues, and he transmutes. he transforms. He makes this bridge. It's just quite astonishing, really.